Welcome, Facebook viewers. My name is Brad Bodis. I'm an attorney with the Bond and Bodis Law Offices. The Bond and Bodis Law Offices are located throughout Alabama, throughout Mississippi, and we help people with money problems. We know a lot of you are having financial issues this last year. It's been tough, and we've tried to address topics over the last year and a half that are important to our clients, our community, people that may be having money problems. I'm fortunate today to be joined by one of our attorneys with Bond and Bodis. Nick Gajewski has been with us now, Nick, since 2014, I believe.
That's right.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So folks, we have had a number of episodes over the last several months dealing with the moratoriums that have been put in place by our government with respect to evictions, with respect to foreclosures. We've talked about mortgage modifications, but we want to talk specifically today about the fact that these foreclosure moratoriums are coming to an end very soon. In fact, if they're not extended again, the foreclosure moratoriums will be coming to an end at the end of this month, June 30th. So not too far off. And Nick and I are going to talk about what that means. So let me give you a little bit of background on Nick. Nick, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you came to Alabama in 2003. You lived in Greenville, South Carolina before that. You came to Alabama to attend college at the University of Alabama. Got your BA in philosophy, finished magna cum laude. So Nick's a smart guy, folks. And then you went on and got your law degree also at Alabama. Started practicing bankruptcy law in 2011 and with us in our offices in Florence and in Haleyville, Alabama since 2014. And we're fortunate to have you, Nick, and we're going to have a conversation and talk to people about what the end of the foreclosure forbearance period means. Nick, is there anything about your background? I tried to give the details, but anything else you'd like to share with our audience about you and what you do?
Well, you got all the pertinent details right there. It's a little bit startling to hear that it's already been 10 years that I've been doing this, a decade now that I've been doing bankruptcy law. It seems like it's been a flash, but yeah, ever since the first day I was a lawyer in a law firm, I've been doing bankruptcy work.
Well, I will tell you, if you think the first 10 years went fast, I've been doing it for over 30 years now, Nick, and it does go by quickly. But with that time that we've been doing this work, we've been fortunate to have gained a lot of you and I learning things every day. So Nick, just to break down for our viewers, what I want to talk about today are, number one, what a mortgage is. You know, we take it for granted. We work with mortgages every day. We know what a mortgage is, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what a foreclosure is and how that process works. We have offices in Alabama and Mississippi. The process is fairly similar in both states. We'll talk about why a foreclosure happens and how it happens. And then we're going to talk about what the end of this forbearance period means for people, and what options people have. So are you ready to get started and dig into this, Nick?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Well, great. So I've done a number of these episodes. We did one recently with Alabama Legal Services attorney Holly Ray. We talked about the eviction moratorium. I did one with Igor Ortberg, and we talked about the mortgage modifications. But let me give you a chance. Why don't you tell our viewers exactly what a mortgage is?
Okay, sure. So, a mortgage basically is a contract giving a company, a lender, rights in the property that you are buying. Most people think of a mortgage as one thing, but usually mortgages are actually two. There's a promissory note, which is the actual document that obligates you to make payments to the mortgage company. And then the mortgage itself is the legal document that says if you don't make those mortgage payments, then we, the mortgage lender, have rights to foreclose on that property. That really is where the foreclosure risk comes in from the mortgage.
So it's a protection for the mortgage company that's lending you money. It's a protection they have if you don't make your payments, what their recourse is. And that recourse in most instances is a foreclosure. Tell me exactly what would lead to a foreclosure based upon your experience in the state of Alabama?
Generally, the number one thing is lack of payment. That's always number one. If you read the the fine print, so to speak, in the mortgage document, it says if the payments aren't made on time, that counts as a default, and then any default will trigger their ability to foreclose. That's the number one reason. Also, if you can't get insurance on the home, that can be another reason. But primarily, it's falling behind on the monthly payments.
Right. And we should tell our viewers, now we're bankruptcy attorneys. We won't always say positive things about mortgage servicers or mortgage companies, but I think we can tell people that the mortgage company does not want to foreclose on your home. They make money by you making your mortgage payments every month. So they really don't want to take your home if they can avoid it. The foreclosure process, though, in both Alabama and Mississippi, is a fast process. You would think somebody's going to take your home, somebody's going to set your stuff out on the street, that there might be some court involvement, there might be a hearing, an opportunity to speak your piece. But Nick, both Alabama and Mississippi are non-judicial foreclosure states. Can you explain it for our viewers just how quickly a foreclosure can take place? And Alabama and Mississippi have fairly similar laws. So I know you're licensed in Alabama, just how quickly it can take place and how the process works.
Sure, yeah. So, and just to clarify, non-judicial foreclosure, which is what we have, just for the viewers, that means they don't have to go through the court system. They don't have to sue you or anything like that. It's an automatic process that's built into the law. And so, to foreclose, once you have made a default on that contract, and they mark it as a account that's going to be foreclosed, they have to notify you. And they've got to give you about 30 days notice. There has to be a notice run in the newspaper or some publication for 3 weeks in a row. And then once that's been done, they can go ahead and hold the foreclosure sale. So you won't only have maybe 30 to 45 days notice. That's how fast it can go.
Yeah. And that time period can go by very quickly, and it's surprising to a lot of our clients that come in and they may be facing a foreclosure. There are some states that have a judicial foreclosure process. For instance, if you're in Florida and a mortgage servicer wants to foreclose on your home, there is a court proceeding. Nick, we find that although the mortgage servicer will send a notice to you when you're behind on your payments, a lot of our clients, you're behind on your bills, you kind of stick your head in the sand and you're not looking at your mail. And this publication in the newspaper, it's usually either in a newspaper that nobody reads or in the section of a newspaper that nobody reads. So there's very little notice. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, the process can happen very quickly. So it's very, very important for folks to be proactive. If you're having money problems, if you're unable to make your mortgage payment, that foreclosure is imminent in most cases. Now that's kind of changed over this last year, Nick, because we have had this period of forbearances with respect to foreclosures. Tell our viewers what the forbearance is and kind of how that's worked over the last year.
Sure. Well, the forbearance basically is legal forgiveness, essentially. Well, that's not really the right word. It's allowing you to put off some of your mortgage payments to a future date. And that was one of the things that, it's a program that Congress has allowed because of this whole COVID pandemic and the CARES Act that was passed. So you can apply for forbearance with your mortgage company and they will defer some number of months payments, 3 months, 6, 12, and then you'll have to deal with those payments in the future. But for now, you don't have to make your payments and there's no adverse effect.
Okay. So, folks, the period during which you've kind of been excused from making your mortgage payments, these mortgage servicers could not, in most cases, foreclose on your home. That's coming to an end, which means if you haven't been making your payments, you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared to act. There are some wonderful modification programs out there. Nick, we did an episode a few weeks back and we talked about these mortgage modifications. And you mentioned earlier that you've been practicing bankruptcy law about 10 years. Well, I was actively practicing back in 2008, 2009 when we had the last issue with a big uptick in foreclosures. I will tell you that the mortgage companies seem to have learned since that time. Although mortgage modifications existed at that point, the system didn't work real well. And there was just an avalanche of foreclosures. It wasn't good for anybody. There were a lot of empty homes. Real estate values went down. Even the mortgage companies, they had big inventories of homes. So the mortgage services have learned, and they're trying to make modification programs available. But what we've learned, people, is even if the modification programs are available, they aren't instantaneous. You need to be proactively trying to modify your mortgage. You need to be in touch with your mortgage company and provide any information they need. But as Nick said earlier, while you're doing that, the foreclosure process can still be going forward. So you need to act soon. I want to say again, the Bond and Bonus law offices are offering absolutely free initial consultations right now. And we'll do them, by phone, we'll do them by video, we'll do them however you want, we'll do them from the comfort and safety of your home or office. But be proactive, reach out if you're behind. So, Nick, we do primarily bankruptcy work, and I think the important bankruptcy chapter here for people to be aware of is Chapter 13 bankruptcy.
Yeah.
If somebody's behind on their mortgage and they haven't yet been able to modify their mortgage, tell folks how a Chapter 13 bankruptcy can work.
Sure. So, Chapter 13 bankruptcy is sometimes called consolidation. Um, it's all administered by the bankruptcy court, but the court allows you to take whatever outstanding debts you have and roll those into a consolidation plan. So you can do that same consolidation with any missed mortgage payments. If you've gotten behind on the mortgage and you owe for several months, and the mortgage company is demanding that you pay that whole lump sum right away, with a Chapter 13, you can put that large amount into a payment plan and pay it out over a series of months, a little bit at a time. And so long as you follow that plan with the court, you are protected from any kind of foreclosure or negative action from the mortgage company.
So it's a plan that's approved by a federal court, folks. Your mortgage company doesn't have any option. If you're eligible for Chapter 13 and you file a Chapter 13 before the foreclosure sale date, the foreclosure process stops and you're able to propose a plan to catch up what you're behind over time. But the key thing here is before the foreclosure sale. Why is that important, Nick?
Well, because the foreclosure sale itself has legal importance. Once it's sold at that foreclosure auction, that property is not yours anymore. It's legally someone else's, which means if you file for bankruptcy protection the day after, the bankruptcy will only protect the items and things that are yours, and that house isn't yours anymore. So it's outside of the bankruptcy. You can't bring it back in and take it back from whoever it was sold to at that foreclosure auction.
Yeah. So again, folks, be proactive. There's a lot of us that have gotten behind on our bills over the last year. It's nothing to be ashamed about. But you want to protect your home. You want to protect your assets. To summarize what we talked about, the mortgage is a lien against your home. When you borrow money to buy your home, the mortgage company, to protect themselves, they take a lien against your home. They have an interest in the property that your home's on. If you get behind on your payments, the mortgage company can foreclose against your property. That means enforce that lien and take your home from you. Alabama and Mississippi are both non-judicial foreclosure states, which means that process through which they take your home is quick. It can take place in a month or so. It's going to vary slightly, but it can happen before you know it. So get out in front of things. The mortgage companies have essentially been holding off on foreclosures because they've been ordered to by the federal government. There's been a forbearance in place, but that forbearance is coming to an end at the end of June. So just a few short weeks off, and you need to reach out for help and be prepared. If the mortgage company will allow you to modify your mortgage, the modification may involve putting those payments at the end of your mortgage. It may mean some kind of slight increase in your payments moving forward. There are all kinds of different types of modifications, and if you can get one, that's great. But until you have that modification locked up in place, you need to protect your home. And before your home is foreclosed on, before the foreclosure sale, an option may be getting into a personal reorganization type bankruptcy, a Chapter 13, which will protect your home. And what I want our viewers to know is when you're in that Chapter 13, even then you can work on modification. That gives you a period of time there to work on that modification. With the assistance of a good qualified bankruptcy attorney and the oversight of a federal bankruptcy judge that's going to look at things. Nick, I want to step back here for a second and bring our viewers up to date as to what we're doing. And then when we're done, we've had some questions come in. I want to encourage our viewers, if you have questions, please submit them and we'll post them to Nick, and he and I will discuss them and try to provide answers to you. I do want to apologize. I've been told that there's a little bit of background noise, and I'm not sure what to do about it, so I apologize if there's an echo or background noise for our viewers. The Bond and Botus law offices have been doing these Facebook Live episodes for just over a year now, and we try to address issues of importance to our viewers and to the community that we serve. We help people with money problems. Last year's been tough. We know a lot of you are having money problems. We encourage you to be proactive. We are offering absolutely free initial consultations at all of our offices with an experienced attorney. Most of our attorneys, like Nick, have 10 years plus. Many of us 20 years plus, and some of us old people even more than 30 years we've been doing this type of work, but we want to help you. We're in this field of work because we want to help people with money problems. We want to help you save your homes. We want to keep your family together and safe. We have done Facebook Live episodes over the last several months on several issues of importance and related to this topic today. We had Holly Ray with Alabama Legal Services on a few weeks back, and we talked about the eviction moratoriums, which are similar but different than foreclosure moratoriums. Evictions have to do with people that are renting their homes or apartments. And Holly did just an excellent job of going over tenants' rights and how to protect themselves. We had Igor Reitborg, and I'm butchering that name, so I apologize, who's a managing director at Stretto, to talk about mortgage modifications and programs that are available for people while they're in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, court approved with the assistance of your bankruptcy attorney. Last week, we did something different. It was Memorial Day week, and we had a special guest. We had recently retired Colonel Lori Rasmussen, who served many, many years in the Air Force, and we talked about the meaning of Memorial Day and her perspective as a member of the military and somebody who served in the armed forces of our country for a long time. Folks, all of these Facebook Live episodes are available both on our website and on our Facebook page. So if you know somebody that may be behind on their mortgage payments, if you know somebody that is having financial issues, please consider sharing this episode with them, pass it on to them so that they can hear what Nick's had to say, so that they can understand what their rights are and how they can protect their homes. Today, again, I have one of our attorneys here at Bond and Botus, Nick Gajewski, who has been with us now over 10 years, or been practicing, bankruptcy law for over 10 years. You've been with us since 2014, so right at 7 years now. Nick's in our office in Florence, Alabama, and also does some work in our office in Haleyville, Alabama. Nick's a smart guy, good guy, and he, like the rest of us, is offering absolutely free initial consultations right now. And please feel free to reach out to us if you need help, and we'll schedule one of those absolutely free initial consultations for you. We're talking today about the impending end of the foreclosure moratorium period. Our country's pulling out of this pandemic right now. Things are getting better. We're not doing episodes about wearing masks or vaccinations right now because hopefully most of us have been vaccinated and we're on our way to recovery. But as we pull out of this, we're having to, face the music. If we've been unable to make mortgage payments or keep them current over the last year, that period of time in which we were protected from a foreclosure on our home is coming to an end. And Nick and I have gone through what a mortgage is, what a foreclosure is, what causes a foreclosure, what the moratorium has been, and the fact that it's coming to an end, how you may be able to modify your mortgage, and if you need some time in order to make sure that modification kicks in, how a Chapter 13 personal reorganization bankruptcy can be of assistance. So, Nick, we have had a few questions that have come in here from our audience, and if you're ready, I'm gonna give those to you, and we'll try to address them.
Absolutely. Fire away.
So the first question is, if I've missed my mortgage payments, am I disqualified from refinancing my loan?
Not necessarily. That's actually one of the big reasons why we see a lot of people do refinancing in the first place. You can take whatever those arrears are and then roll that up into the remaining time of your mortgage, maybe add some more time. You may wind up adding, 2 or 3 more years onto the end of your current mortgage term, but that has the effect of getting you back to current. So basically you put all that down the road until it's stuck on the end, and then you just resume your normal monthly payments starting there.
And excellent advice. I want this person asking this question to understand exactly, though, the difference between refinancing your mortgage and modifying your mortgage. Refinancing, and I think Nick, you are exactly on point with what this individual was asking. I may get a bleep on the screen here if not, but the concern was, can I redo my mortgage? If it's that existing mortgage and you need some help with it, yes, that would be requesting a modification, and exactly what Nick just said would take place. Hopefully the mortgage company would enter into an agreement with you to put those payments at the end, or somehow to adjust your payments to help you get caught up. A refinance is usually taking out a new loan, paying off the existing note and mortgage, and starting all over again. That's a process that's often available, and no, you're not automatically disqualified. It's going to be more difficult, frankly, to refinance if you're behind on your payments. So the first thing you want to do is exactly what Nick said, and that's look at modifying the existing loan. But don't put it off. Don't wait. It's time to act now, to reach out for help and to understand what your rights are. So I think we addressed this next question, Nick, but maybe we didn't do it well enough. Person here is asking, if I can't make my missed payments, is the mortgage company going to foreclose on my home?
Well, I think yes. I think if there's not really a forgiveness provision, forbearance, means that you will pay those payments just at some future time. But if you have missed payments that you just cannot make, eventually they're going to try and foreclose if you're not able to bring that account current again.
Yeah, it will happen again if you're not proactive. The result of not making your mortgage payments is that the mortgage company may have no other option but to foreclose on your home. You don't want that to happen, and that's why you need to be proactive. I keep saying this, folks, but I know after having done this for so long, when you get behind on your bills, when you get behind on your mortgage payments, you tend to just cover up and stick your head in the sand, and you want it all to go away.
Yeah.
But it's not. and it's not going to fix itself. Don't let that stress and anxiety be negative. Don't make it cause you to argue with your spouse. Don't cause it to uh, keep you from sleeping. Use that to be proactive. We want you to know that there are options. Um, don't wait to the last minute. Don't wait till you get that foreclosure notice. If you're behind, um, reach out to the mortgage company, document everything, provide everything they ask for, and ask for a modification before they foreclose. If that process is not working quickly enough, if you can't get a forbearance in place, then reach out to one of our offices and we can help you with a personal reorganization, Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which stops the foreclosure. It's not up to the mortgage company at this point. It stops the foreclosure. There's just a wonderful thing in the bankruptcy world called an automatic stay that stops all collection activity, foreclosures, repossessions, garnishments, everything. You're protected. Um, we can help you get that into place, often with very little or no money down, and give you a chance to breathe and work towards that modification. And we'll help you with that modification process at that point.
Fred, if I can, there's one thing I'd kind of like to emphasize in what you just said. You advised everyone to document the process of
Yeah.
applying for that modification. And I would like to just chime in on that and say that's very important to make a copy of anything that you send to the mortgage company. There are many occasions where I've spoken to clients who have said that they have tried to go through the modification process 2 or 3 or even 4 times, and every time they're denied because the paperwork got lost or the mortgage company says they didn't receive the paperwork in enough time. And if you don't have a copy of what you sent, then you've got to wait to get original versions of those forms and fill all that out all over again. As long as you have copies, if anything goes wrong, you can put a copy in the mail straight away. So be sure and document whatever you do with your mortgage company.
Hey, great advice, Nick. Write down names. If the person you're talking to with the mortgage company will give you their name, write it down. Sometimes they want to use some other identification, a operator number or something. Write it down.
Yeah.
Put the time of your phone call, the number you dialed, or the number that the call came from. If you mail something, get one of those green cards at the post office and send it certified mail so that you can prove that you actually sent the documents.
Yeah.
And
The days where your mortgage was maybe held by the local bank down the road and you could go and talk to your loan officer face to face, that's getting more and more rare. And nowadays these mortgage servicers are massive national corporations, and they don't know you necessarily more than just an account number. So you gotta protect yourself in that way.
yeah, Nick, this is just as an aside, this is one of the things I am hoping has changed over the years and that the mortgage servicers learned with what happened back in 2009, 2010. You
Yeah.
and I hear these stories all the time. They asked for pay stubs. I sent them pay stubs. They asked for tax returns. I sent them tax returns. Something else we hear is that every time I call the mortgage company, I talk to a different person, and one
Oh
person
yeah.
doesn't know what the other said. You know, Very interesting when I did the episode a few weeks back with Igor Reutberg with Stretto. Nick, he talked about a really what I think is a cool new platform that's being set up that will create a direct portal between Chapter 13 bankruptcy attorney and the mortgage servicer, where once we file a Chapter 13 for something, we will be able to communicate through the portal, know exactly what needs to be submitted, know exactly what the status of the modification is. Um, and hopefully make that modification process much more easy for our clients. But again, folks, that's something that, we can do after you get into the Chapter 13 to protect your home. We can help you work on that modification. I am, Nick, I'm cautiously optimistic that the mortgage companies are really going to work with people this go around as the forbearance period ends. And instead of just quickly initiating foreclosures again, that they'll work with people. But I want our viewers to know, as cautiously optimistic as I am, we've got to protect your home. We have experienced attorneys in the bond and bonus law offices. The consultation is free. At least reach out and understand what your options are. Talk to an actual attorney. Don't trust Google. Don't trust your wife's cousin who used to be involved in banking. Reach out to an experienced bankruptcy attorney with the bond and bonus law offices, and we'll help you understand exactly what your options are. So this person wants to know, Nick, I haven't been making my mortgage payments. Apparently this individual hasn't. The forbearance period is ending. This person wants to know, will I have to make all of my payments at once?
That is possible. You may. I've heard of different mortgage companies handling that in different ways. Your particular mortgage company may be willing to set up some kind of plan or offer you an option for a modification in some way, but I don't believe they have to. I think once the forbearance period is over, they can demand all those payments be made.
And Nick's exactly right. Under Alabama law, you're behind on your mortgage, and there's people out there talk about, well, all right, I've got to be 2 payments or 3 payments or 4 payments behind before foreclosure. Technically, the day you miss your first payment, the mortgage company can foreclose, because at that point you're in default on your mortgage. Pre-pandemic, I would say, Nick, our experience was usually probably had to be 3-4 payments behind at least before a mortgage servicer would normally initiate foreclosure proceedings. Everything's different now. But a lot of you I know are a lot more than 2, 3, 4 payments behind. And if you are behind and you haven't put a modification in place, one that's been approved by your mortgage lender, then yes, all payments can become due at once. And if you don't make them, then that foreclosure can go forward. So again, if either you or someone you know is behind on their mortgage payments, encourage them to listen to what we're saying today and understand what your rights are. First, try to get a forbearance. Work with the mortgage company to try to get a forbearance in place. Document everything. But if you get a notice of foreclosure sale, it's probably too late to still be working on a forbearance. It's time to reach out and talk to an experienced bankruptcy attorney about how to protect your home during the interim. And either Nick or I or any of our colleagues with the bond and bonus law offices will be glad, to do an free initial consultation with you. Just go to our website or call our offices and we'll set up that appointment. Nick, something else I've heard of, people put off coming to see us even though they know a foreclosure sale has been scheduled, because the person they're talking to about a modification says, oh, don't worry about that, we'll get this modification in place. You've heard that, I imagine, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I have.
And the problem, as Nick just said, these companies are so big, they have so many employees. As my mother used to say, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. So one individual in one department that's trying to work with you on a modification may be doing that But somebody in another apartment has already sent it to an attorney, and that attorney is aggressively moving forward on a foreclosure. An important point you made earlier, Nick, is, not just a day after the foreclosure sale, a minute after the foreclosure sale in Alabama, a Chapter 13 is no longer going to help you. You can't save your home at that point through a Chapter 13. So it's important to get to an attorney as far in advance of the foreclosure sale as possible. Nick, unfortunately, you and I have both had people contact us a day or two before the foreclosure sale. And although we'll try to help at that point, it's tough. We really need as much time as we can.
It's tough. It's when you're doing something like a Chapter 13, you really can't throw it together at the last minute. There are emergency petitions. It's possible, but a normal Chapter 13 petition is going to run anywhere from 50 to 75 pages. These are big documents that all have to be filed accurately and quickly with the court, and it's really hard to gather the information you need to do that in 24 hours.
I think the key thing you just said is to do it properly. Yeah. And this is something else I really want to underscore for our viewers. You can say I'm an experienced attorney. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I guess what it really means is I'm an old attorney. And one thing I've seen over the years is whenever there's a downturn in the economy, when something's happening that's going to cause people to perhaps seek bankruptcy protection, there are a lot of attorneys that say, well, I'm going to start doing bankruptcy work, and I'm going to start trying to earn a living here by filing bankruptcy petitions. Folks, I don't want to say anything bad about any other attorney, but if you make the decision to file bankruptcy, there will be good results, there will be bad results, but it's going to be one of the most important decisions you make in your life. It's going to be with you for a period of time. You want to make sure you choose an experienced and qualified bankruptcy attorney that has a good reputation. If you are in Alabama or Mississippi, I encourage you to reach out and ask. We've been helping people in Alabama and Mississippi for over 30 years with financial problems, and we make a point of doing it right, people. If you come in and you're facing the potential loss of your home or the potential loss of your vehicle, or in a situation where bankruptcy may be important to you, we're going to treat you like we treat our own family. We don't do this work because of our bottom line. We do this to help people. I've said to people more than once, it's really almost like a ministry. When people have financial problems, it's a tough time. It's a tough time, and we're not going to judge you. We're going to help you get out of that bad situation and help you come up with a plan. The bankruptcy code exists to give an honest debtor a fresh start. And Nick, I know you're like me. There's really, somebody comes into your office for initial consultation, or you're today talking to them on the phone, and they're tearful, and you can tell they're going through a tough time. There's really no better feeling than helping them come up with a plan. I imagine you've probably had some experiences like that, haven't you?
Oh yeah, many times. That's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
Still doing this job for days like that. Those are the days that make it worth it, because it's not easy. We don't do this type of law because it's simple and quick. It's complicated stuff, but these are rights that people have that not many people necessarily know they have.
Right.
And to be able to show people that and help people out of those really tough times, that's the best.
Yeah, it really is. And Again, I think Nick just said it well. That's why I'm still here too, doing this after a long time. Um, we're doing this because we want people to know what their rights are. We want to protect them from their creditors, and we want to give them a chance to not only hold their finances together, but hold their family together, hold their life together, to turn things around and to get out from under the financial burdens that they're facing. Um, this next question, a particular politician is named, and I'm not going to let this get political, but let me rephrase this. Nick, do you think that there will be any additional mortgage forbearances granted or any additional stimulus packages going forward?
I'm of two minds about it, to be honest. I feel like, as you mentioned earlier, we are kind of coming out of this, and I think there is a big push to get back to normal. The last time there was an extension, to the CARES Act, which occurred, I think it was just a few days before that act's provisions were set to expire back in March. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a last minute extension on some of these provisions, but at the same time, I'm kind of thinking that the prevailing feeling is one of, wishing it were so. If we have to have more extensions, then that means there's still a problem. If we don't pass any more extensions, that's a sign that things are getting better. Whether they are or not, I don't know. I don't know how politicians think.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think either of us do. In fact, I don't think they do sometimes. Um, I keep emphasizing this point to our viewers, but you can't sit back and just wait. Now is the time to pull yourself up, to be proactive, and to reach out for help. Mortgage servicers want to help you with mortgage modifications. Congress, President want to help you. They've enacted these forbearance programs that have been in place for some time. Stimulus payments have been available, but we really don't know if there's going to be any more relief going forward. You can't rely on that. You need to take action on your own. Pick up your phone or go to your computer and go to our website. Call us, fill out a form on our website, and we'll call you. Schedule a free consultation. It doesn't cost you anything, and you'll talk with an experienced, qualified attorney that wants to help you, and you'll know what your options are, and how things will happen if you do decide to seek some sort of bankruptcy protection moving forward. Rick or Nick, I'm sorry. A lot of people making that phone call and reaching out for help from a bankruptcy attorney is a really tough thing to do. I think there's a misconception out there that if I file bankruptcy, I'm not going to be able to get any credit for the next 7 to 10 years, and my credit's going to be ruined. What would you say to those people that are letting that keep them from reaching out for help right now?
I would say that at this point is a little bit of an urban legend. With the overhauls that have been done to the bankruptcy code and modern day, credit systems, you will for sure take a hit to your credit, but it's not going to last you for years like it may have if you had filed back in the 80s or 90s. Generally, in everyday practice, from what we see, when a person is getting out of a bankruptcy, their credit is wiped clean. That's part of the effect of the case. And you can expect probably to be able to use credit again, even for big purchases like a car, probably within about a year to 12 or year to 14 months, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it's again, I'm the old attorney. I do remember, filing bankruptcies back in the 80s and 90s, and I do remember how difficult it was to rebuild your credit. Uh, that's not at all the case today. In fact, you know, where I spent a lot of time helping people rebuild their credit years ago, now we try to emphasize that you don't want to get into this trouble again. Credit will come fairly quickly. Credit offers will come fairly quickly, but they're not going to be necessarily the best offers. They're not going to be the lowest interest rates right off, and it's easy to get into trouble again. And one, you know, I always make this point, Nick. People are worried about the impact bankruptcy is going to have on their credit. Right now, if you haven't been making your mortgage payments, if you're behind on your bills, your credit's probably already in bad shape, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, bankruptcy, you can rebuild your credit fairly quickly after a bankruptcy. So people say, what's the worst thing that happens when I file a bankruptcy? I'll tell you that the negative that can happen is you can't file another bankruptcy right away. And that's especially true now with changes that have been made over the last couple of decades with our bankruptcy laws. If you decide that you need to file a straight Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the biggest thing you're going to lose is your right to file another Chapter 7 bankruptcy and get a discharge for 8 years. So all the more reason to be very careful with your credit. It's going to be there. You just want to be careful with it going forward. Unlike that Chapter 7 bankruptcy, Nick, Chapter 13, a lot more flexibility. If you file a Chapter 13 and you get behind on your mortgage payments again after your file, we can often help people by modifying their plan and get them caught up on those mortgage payments. Or if your Chapter 13 is dismissed without a discharge, you're usually eligible to refile. There are some exceptions. You want to talk to an experienced attorney. But there's really no reason not to reach out for help right now. Nick, I've got one more question I'm going to ask you, but before I ask it, I'm just going to give you a warning here. I always wrap up these Facebook Live episodes by asking my guests if there's anything I missed or anything important that they want to say. So I'm just warning you about that in advance right now. This next question here is, how much will it cost to file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy? I'm going to let Nick answer that for our offices in Florence and Haleyville. But before he does it, I want you to know that each of the court systems before which we practice are a little bit different, and the amount of money, if you're going to pay any money at all before your bankruptcy is filed, is going to be a little bit different. But Nick, why don't you, if somebody comes to see you in your office in Florence, or if you're in our office in Haleyville, typically what's it going to cost to file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy?
Typically to file would cost $100 out of pocket. Now that is not for our attorney's fees for hiring us or the court. You can put all of that into the Chapter 13 to be paid out over time. But there are certain things you have to do to prepare to be able to file, including taking what's called a credit counseling course. And so that's what that $100 cost is for.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to the point I guess you were making earlier again about how, some attorneys, when they see a downturn in the economy, will try to jump into filing. There are multiple things in the process of filing that have to be done even before you file in order to have a successful case. And so if you don't know those things and you just jump in, you may have no hope of having a successful case if you didn't, have someone advising you and preparing you to get that started.
Nick, you're right. And every year at the end of the year, the law school down in Tuscaloosa asks me to come down and give a talk to attorneys. It's a continuing legal education program, and at this particular seminar, it's for people that have not gotten their continuing legal education hours in throughout the year, so they're not necessarily bankruptcy attorneys. And I'm just giving an overview of the bankruptcy laws. I will say that by the time I go through it with other attorneys, all the steps necessary to get a Chapter 13 filed, the credit counseling, the financial management course, the means test, collection of pay stubs and tax returns, that most attorneys that don't do this work regularly at that point shake their head, and they realize this is an area where you need somebody that specializes in the field. Let me expand upon Chapter 13 attorneys' fees just a little bit, just to cover really all of the jurisdictions in which we practice. What Nick told you, and he was careful to say this, the amount of money you pay up front is usually going to be very small. And many of our offices will file a Chapter 13 with absolutely no money up front. You may pay the credit counseling company to complete your credit counseling. That doesn't mean that there isn't an attorney's fee. We apply for a fee that is paid as part of your plan of reorganization. The amount we're paid is going to vary. I always tell people, if you really look at how a Chapter 13 works, it's usually not even you making the payment, because, Nick, as we both know from crafting a plan, people pay their disposable income into the plan, and whatever is going to us in fees is simply money that's not going to their creditors. So I tell people it's a great way to get your creditors to pay for your bankruptcy attorney. There are options available, people. Reach out. Nick, I want to be respectful of your time. We're nearing an hour here. I'm grateful, not only for today, I'm grateful for everything you do for our clients every day. Folks, Nick is a person that cares about people he represents, and he's smart. I learned things from Nick. He does a great job with our clients. So in conclusion here, Nick, what may I have left out here? What's important for people to know that are watching this video right now?
Well, I don't know that you left it out. I would like to, I guess, retouch on one of the things you mentioned kind of at the beginning, kind of in keeping with it being June here now. I think everyone should be aware that you have options to apply for a mortgage forbearance if that's causing you trouble, but the deadline is rapidly approaching. Also need to be aware that the moratorium on foreclosures is rapidly approaching. And when that is over, you may find yourself in a situation where you're getting, immediate demand letters from the mortgage company asking for payment in full. And if you are facing a lump sum payment that you cannot do, that you don't know how you're going to manage, call us, because we can talk you through what your options are for how you have various ways to handle that, either through a Chapter 13, or we can help try and explain your options as far as a modification or refinance. If there's a way that we can help you and not have to file a bankruptcy case, we'll absolutely talk you through that and help you figure out a way to do that. But you also need to be aware of what your rights are and what abilities you have to kind of, fight back, so to speak, against a mortgage company that's trying to take your home.
What you just said there, I really think makes us unique, really, not only for any practice law, but really any business. You and I, Nick, make a living primarily by filing bankruptcies for people. But if somebody comes to see one of us, our first objective is to keep you out of bankruptcy if we can. And it really is, folks. Yeah. Bankruptcy should not be your first option. If we see other options out there that make sense, we're going to counsel you to explore those options and to do what you can to avoid filing a bankruptcy. We're going to do our best to take care of you. And if a bankruptcy is something that makes sense for you, we're going to do our best job at catering to your needs. Now, all of our clients are different. Everybody has different needs. We're going to look at your situation, and we're going to help you get the fresh start that you're guaranteed by the laws of our country. Nick, I think just from listening today, is somebody that cares about people, cares about our clients, is knowledgeable with respect to the law. You will find that with all of our attorneys at the Bond and Bodas law offices. We take pride in doing things right, and we want to help you if we can. In summary, you give a mortgage on your home when you buy the home so that if you don't make the payments, the mortgage company can take your home back. If you're behind, that means you're in default on your mortgage. The mortgage company can foreclose. And in Alabama and Mississippi, that foreclosure process is quick. It's usually just over a month, maximum of 2 months from start to finish, from when you're a homeowner to you no longer own your home. Number 3, right now, many of the mortgage servicers are offering forbearance programs. If you're behind, see if you can't get a forbearance in place on your mortgage. But the period within which to do that is coming to an end rapidly. There has been a moratorium in our country on most mortgage foreclosures. It's coming to an end at the end of this month, at the end of June of this year. And if you don't have a modification in place, a Chapter 13 personal reorganization bankruptcy may make a lot of sense for you. If you're in one of these situations, if you're behind in your payments, please reach out to us. We're offering absolutely free initial consultations. We'll do them from the safety of your own office. We'll do them by phone. We'll do them by video. We want to help you. From all of us at the Bond and Bodas law offices, on behalf of Nick, on behalf of myself, God bless each and every one of you. We're here if you need us, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you, Nick.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.